2015, we basically started with the idea of, tennis is a sport that has become kind of an elitist sport. It's become hard to access for people. And the average player between the ages of 5 and 18, they pay over $300,000 to play. So that's a crazy amount of money, even if you're a middle class family or even an upper middle class family. So what we did with CTF is we said, well, we're going to find ways to make tennis accessible financially, and we kind of started with the performance world, and then we branched out into other areas after that.
We have beginner and advanced wheelchair tennis. We have adaptive tennis, which is adaptive for both physical and cognitive disabilities or differences. We have blind and visually impaired tennis that we do. And then I mentioned our LEAP program. So LEAP is our life education and advancement pathway. That is after school. It's usually an hour of education and an hour of tennis. And we take the theme of the day, whether that's listening or sportsmanship, from the classroom and take it out onto the court.
Tennis is not the first word that comes to my mind. At one of our blind and visually impaired camps, we go around asking what their favorite thing about the day was. And one of the kids said, I did something today that I never thought I could do. It teaches you so much more than just tennis. It teaches you independence. It teaches you camaraderie with a group that maybe you don't connect with, like other people in wheelchairs. And you learn things and you see them do things and you're like, whoa, I didn't know I could do that. There's so much more that's available today than I ever had. So I have spina bifida, which is a disability that paralyzed me from just below the knees. So I can walk a little bit, but anyway, it's a birth defect. And I got into middle school and I was like, I want to try out for my middle school able-bodied tennis team. So I went up to the coach and I was like, hey, I want to play tennis. And she looked down at my wheelchair and she's like, wait, you play tennis? Wait, what do you mean? And then I was like, yeah, I want to play tennis. I want to try out. I want to play tennis. And she's like, well, how are you going to get your wheelchair to all the away games? Everybody in a wheelchair knows how to put their wheelchair in their car and stuff like that, or most people, I would say, right? So it's almost like, it's a very similar question I equate it to, is like, how do you put your shoes on in the morning? It's still an understandable question because she's not used to people in wheelchairs and she just didn't know, right? So then she's like, okay, but you're gonna have to try out. I'm not gonna just let you on the team just because you're in a wheelchair. I'm like, great, that's exactly what I want. And so sure enough, I tried out and I made the team. There's one per year in Cincinnati for wheelchair tennis. I think the next closest tournament is maybe on the East Coast. You've got a tournament in Michigan, stuff like that. So one of our youth, Matthias, he's traveling all around to get his ranking high. And that's really the only way that you can get your ranking high is you have to travel out of state to different tournaments. So now it's really cool to see that Matthias has scholarship opportunities for tennis, and there's very well-established schools that have wheelchair tennis.
There's a lot of things that people can do. So I want to be very clear that you have to have zero connection to tennis in order to help out the Cincinnati Tennis Foundation. I don't care if you've never held a tennis racket. If you can hold a ball and toss it underhand, then you have the ability to come out and help us on a lot of our different courts. A lot of our courts are beginner. Once we get to the EX Foundation, maybe you need to know a little bit more about tennis in order to help, but our volunteers need very little tennis ability if you want to come out and volunteer on the court. A wider ask of the community that we would love to help is to help spread the word. So whether that's sharing social media, tagging social media, when you hear people talking, being like, oh, Cincinnati Tennis Foundation does that. They do education, they do tennis, they partner with music on the court, they do this, they do that. And then kind of our fundraising. So maybe you don't have a lot of connections to help spread the word. Maybe you don't have a desire to be out on the court and help us physically like that. But maybe you know somebody with a big checkbook or a company that wants to sponsor one of our events. we'll happily take that help. And then we have had one, and I'd like to do it probably twice a year, kind of a court cleanup day where the community could come out and just kind of help pick up trash and weed and just kind of help us beautify the grounds a little bit. So that would be kind of an opportunity where the community could support us as well.